Hello friends, again welcome to the story of Mago, and we shall indeed return to the very story of Mago, hidden as a gem in the flow of our history, particularly European history. Right, so we're in the Middle Ages, in the height of the Renaissance, in the Hungarian court of King Matthias. This is, at this time, the strongest kingdom in the whole of Europe. Free and independent, financially, economically, culturally, spiritually, religiously, and governmentally, from the grip of the great conspiracy that's closing in on Europe from the east and the west, as we've already said. So this is the last day of the year. This is why I'm all like, like lipsticked up to say farewell to this year in some halfway ritualistic way, which is to share space and time with the world in my great loneliness here. And I'm very, very excited to get on with this story. So, after the king, right, who's Il Magnifico, the real magnificent king, the real magnificent one of the Renaissance, the great king incarnate again in history, this is Matthias, and he had a priest. He had one particular priest in his kingdom who was the high priest, who became the high priest. He was 9 or 10 years older than the king, but I have this feeling that they were really partners in crime, one would say, but actually like partners in the grand mission that the king was obviously carrying on his shoulders, and the priest was his partner in this. This is my intuition, but hear me out. There's a ton of evidence too. So to approach the priest first from a very personal angle, the priest in our story, this beautiful, wonderful human being who was handsome according to the chronicles. He was said to be really a handsome guy with a great voice and a really nice physical stature. And he was really nice, a nice person, kind. Everybody loved him. And he was also highly intelligent, very diplomatically skilled, obviously religiously highly educated, too, initiated, obviously, not only into the workings of the Vaticani religion, the Roman Catholic, but also obviously initiated into and in the true mission of the White Brother Sisterhood, the Palos Rend, the Palos Order, which, as I've already told you, is the ancient order of Hungarian religion, and it's rooted in the deep old religion, let's say, the pre-Christian Christian religion, because it's Christianity. It's all ancient religions stem from the same thing, and one aspect of this ancient religion, the common religion, is the Sun Cross, but I think I'm not going to get into this now. But you probably know the Sun Cross, and in Hungarian, kör, kereszt, keresztény, Christian, and the circle, even in English, circle and Christianity have something in common. So Christianity and what Jesus Christ was following was this much more ancient, original natural and cosmic religion of humanity. So the palos, so the priest was initiated by the palos too. So he was probably like a double agent, priest of the Roman Catholic Church and priest of the palos order, which is really like a heretic order. It's very surprising that they could even function for so long. Actually, it's probably due to the strength and authority of the Hungarian king that the Hungarian mystical order was actually also the official order, and they weren't exterminated like the Cathars in France, not laughing, crying, and all the Inquisitions and all the other heretics and all the heretics before, who weren't according to the very very deformed and degenerate and consciously mean and evil and misprogramming version of religion that is Roman Catholicism and official Christianity, actually, with all its patriarchy and like forged Trinity and the forged story of Jesus. So, let's not get into it. It's the last day of the year, so allow me to be a little bit all over the place, especially after having a few glasses of hot wine, which I highly recommend to you at this time of the year, besides champagne and anything else. So, the priest. So there's this guy, there's this high priest, and he's like a movie star, but he's a high priest. He's like the most spiritual guy in a very serious official position, and plus he's a diplomat of Mátyás, and a very good one, very high one. He was sent on many later high errands, and he was obviously a very sophisticatedly cultured guy, because his library was not rivaling, but right next to the library of the king. But of course, these libraries were handed on, so the priest also had a predecessor, actually a very, very great humanist. And so our priest, that we also have to love through his actions and through the energy that comes across the ages, like that of the king. These are really great figures and should be role models to humanity, because these are real role models for us. So the priest, this beautiful human being, personal angle, that okay, so my personal story, I don't think I should go too deep into it, but let me just say that, of course, in my family too, patriarchy has made its mark. It's certain special mark, like in so many of our stories. But of course, works always, but somehow patriarchy is like an unsolvable knot on our psyche, and it should be solved, this question of patriarchy and patriarchal petrified patriarchal forms of behavior and really wrong patterns handed down through the ages because of the degenerating and particularly male degenerating operation of the patriarchal system. It's not good for anybody, either women or men. It gives men false facades and empty roles and veneer of masculinity, while actually castrating men in many ways. in many forms. So, yeah. So yes, my family, and unfortunately, my mother, who was a really, really wonderful woman, and a real heroine, in a way. She was professor of child neurology, and like she was a true, healer, server, working in a clinic, and writing books, and also teaching, but primarily healing children. And she was the first child neurologist in Hungary, and she was the first professor of this, and she became professor very, very young, and as a woman she went through the whole, the fight of a woman in this highly patriarchal world against all its abuse and judgment and slander and stuff. And it was really difficult for her, like for anybody else, but especially then, 70s, 80s, for a woman in a very male-headed, very, as usual, male-headed field, which is medicine. Anyway, so my mom died relatively young. She was 64, and it was super tragic for me. And I was kind of under a shock after her death, and I went through some kind of initiation there. I died a little bit with her, and a lot of things died in me. And then I realized that only the body dies, but the spirit goes on, and the soul goes on, and the mission goes on and is handed down. So I decided to take up my mom's family name, which is, again, it's a question why this is in families that you automatically inherit your dad's name. Like, okay, but like respect, but why only that, or why that, or how does it work? And then I decided to take up my mom's family name and actually like stick it to the previous part of my dad's name. So I put them together, and thus I kind of recreated some kind of a balance between my dad and my mom. And actually, like, okay, in a way, it's like, to reunify them in myself. That broken unit that was them, to reunify it in myself. And also, I guess, attempt a reunification of my own consciousness, the masculine and the feminine part, which is, after living in such a broken world, so out of joint, human world, out of joint, it's a feat. It's like really a challenge, and I'm sure not only for me, but for all of us, to reunite the disparate parts, or separate parts, to reunify, because we know that there is something not only like woo-woo magical, but actually practically magical about that. You draw energy from union, from the one, from being united, right? So I took my mom's name, and then I got into her family story. And there has already been a big research work about my family by some uncle, like all the ancestors coded in a big book. And there are two ancestors that kind of stand out in my mom's family, which is a really old, they say noble family, but you know, what is nobility? This is the question. Why is somebody awarded, you know, position or attention or something? And in this family, it's really clear, because it's not the nobility lies in being a helper, in being a keeper, in being a servant of the community in some way. Leader, but a leader is not a leader just, you know, by itself, because that's a position. No, a leader is somebody, like, leaders are born naturally. A leader is somebody who has developed their own authority within themselves. And this is the Úrság, the Lordness. So, nobility. Oh yes, and so teachers and priests and intellectuals abundant in my family. Thus, even my mom is a healer, was a healer, and so my daughter will be one too, and so I am also on this path, so there were two great people standing out in this family, and both were priests. And they were in consecutive generations. And the first one was this guy called Dominicus Kálmáncsai. Kálmáncsai is my mom's family, is our family name. And then in the next and he was our priest. So Dominicus Kálmáncsai was the high priest of our Renaissance great king. And in the next generation, after the fall of the king and after the fall of the country, already in the next century, in the 16th century, Reformation started, right? Because the church was so corrupt, as we already said, in the 15th century, that in the next century there had to be a great schism. But of course it was also manipulated, so make no mistake, it's not like with the schism the Vatican falls. Oh no, it's just the Reformed Church will be just another establishment, patriarchal, biblical, Judeo-Christian form, and different school, but of the same ideology, same worldview, and the same establishment. So, nevertheless, still, I guess, I'm sure when Reformation started, many people believed that it would bring something new, and in Hungary, Reformation was also, I guess, combined with a hope to be able to reconnect with the ancient religion that was still around at this time. As I already said, also the Pálos, the White Brother Sisterhood, the White Order, and the mysteries kept by it. So one of the first bishops of Protestantism in Hungary was a Kálmáncsai too. Kálmáncsai Márton, Sánta Márton, who participated in the wars for religion, the religious wars. So he was the first generation of Protestant bishops, and Dominicus was the last generation of that kind of, the church under Matthias and the Hungarian kings before, the version of the Roman Catholic, right? So the question is, where is the authenticity in this person? Sorry, I'm getting lost. No. So I connected with my two ancestors after my mom died, and in my great grief, I wanted to, I guess, get in touch more with the family tree, with my roots. Suddenly, it became like a real issue for me to, searching for my mom, I guess, wanting to hang on to her, who was already under, 6 feet under, and actually with so much injustice done to her and so much injustice, not only in life but even in her fate, I felt. So I started looking downwards into my roots, and there I see, I read about this person, the priest, Dominicus, not in so much detail, but it was already in this family chronicle that he was a wonderful guy, like really, really amazing. And then, at this point, I was already researching Matthias. I was like really into the figure of Matthias, and he is like a cult figure, and again, a new cult figure, the king. And, people are reconnecting with him, and his energy is present. I guess always been, but now it's kind of many people in the awakening communities of Hungary are reconnecting or connecting with ancestors and common ancestors such as Matthias the king, with Attila, with Nimrod, with other like heroes of our history. And I think that's very not only beautiful and idyllic or like lovely, but it's an energetic thing. These things do exist. You can connect with ancestors, and it's actually highly recommended to connect with strong, magical, radiant ancestors. So I was connecting with Matthias already before and kind of identifying with him and his understanding his mission, and then suddenly I find, in my great grief, I found this figure of the priest, and it astonished me what an amazing person he was, right? And then I realized, okay, so if Matthias was this really amazing, almost mythical hero that he really was, that there are very charismatic people, very few. That's why, one could be like skeptical about this, because there are very few charismatic people, and for charismatic people to actually be great and good and noble and true and just is very, very, very rare. It's very rare, unfortunately. So but these phenomena do exist, human phenomena of wonder and divine presence. So I was in awe of Matthias, and then I realized, so if Matthias is such an amazing person, then his high priest must have also been a very, very special person. And then putting together the family chronicles saying that the priest, this high priest, was charismatic and handsome and sweet and super clever and trustworthy and very talented. His financial skills were really good. He could put together a budget, and he could pull in money like he did for the stolen crown. He was already participating in that action to buy back, as I told you already before, to buy back the crown that was stolen from us. So, and the voice of the priest and stuff. So I'm putting it together, and I realized, like, these are such figures, like, so outstanding in history, like, like pillars. And this guy is my ancestor, so I'm it's quite, it's quite unbelievable. How do you believe these things? Like, I'm just a little person with my little story, and I find out that my ancestor was the high priest of this age. Like he was the high priest. If the king was the king, then his priest that he trusted to be his high priest must have been the high priest, like the mage, the king and the mage. This is what we're talking about. And it's just as magical, mythical, and real as, like, say, King Arthur or Attila, etc. Actually, not so many, especially not in the past 2,000 years, but I told you already, like, we know of 2, 3, 4 mage kings. So, mage kings and mages and kings working together, cooperating. So we're talking about a king and his mage, his head mage, which is high priest. And especially knowing the Mag background of this country, Magyar, Mágus, Magos. So Mag, the seed, and magic and mage are all connected, like in a very, very real way, literally, through the Mag, which is the program of the Mag. And so he's a mage in an official position, actually, in the official Vaticani order. He is also the highest in rank at the height of his career, obviously. I mean, he had to get there. But already at quite a young age, he was 43. Oh my God, I'm losing touch with the story. He was 43 when he was when he became the high priest of the country. He was made high priest by his king. And okay, I'm completely losing touch. So let me show you. Just as for, can you see? As for my name, and taking the name of my mom and taking on this heritage and deciding to, like, step into it and consider myself a real descendant of this priest, and to take it seriously, I had the crest of the priest tattooed on my arm. So I wear it as my right arm. So this is actually pointing the way for me. It's very inspirational, inspiring. It reminds me of my mission. And what is the mission? I hope you understand, you see, you feel too what the mission is. So here we have the priest, who is my ancestor, and what he's doing, and what his role is in this really insanely tight political, edgy political situation that we're facing with the king, as we've seen already. Okay, good. Is that better? So it's already a question. The high priest in such a situation is also in the limelight. When there's this huge battle going on, and Hungary is the last battleground which they have to conquer from east and west, left and right. Because if they do, this is going to be another, like the last, the cherry on top of Europe. Like with Hungary, the enemy, in the end, conquered and took and devoured and exploited a huge circle, the basin and the region, the Carpathian region, of extreme wealth, already, like material wealth in terms of, like, whatever, gold treasures and money and library and buildings and castles and stuff and churches and stuff, but also what's in the earth. Sweet waters, abundant in sweet waters, which is a treasure, and hot water, because the magma is so close, and the hills, the mountains, full of gold and silver and copper. So this is like, it's a big one. The Carpathian Basin is like a really big source of resources, source of energy for the beast, for the parasite beast. And indeed, once Hungary was devoured, the Hungarian kingdom, after the fall of the king, and we'll see what happens with the priest. After this was devoured, you can see exactly what happened. The conquest of the Americas began from this last bite. The serpent ate the last piece of kingdom, of rulership, self-rulership in Europe, and on top of it, indigenous. So that's an extra, the culture, the wealth of the culture, and everything else. So once they devoured Hungary, the great beast, the great conspiracy, the ruling heads already of Europe at this time, in all positions, and all countries. After devouring the Central European kingdom, Archieregnum of Hungary, the conquest of the Americas began. And the whole huge wave, like a tsunami of colonization, began then. And these two things are directly connected, as we shall see. I haven't even started talking about the story of the priest. There's so much to say here. So in this episode, I'm just gonna conclude, I think, or end with the beginning of the priest story in my book, and then do another one about him, because there's really a lot to share. And if you're into it, then these are real treasures. These are real pearls of knowledge and realization. Of course, if you're not interested, then yeah, pearls. So I hope you're interested. And here's the big one. Okay, Botticelli in Hungary. Okay, I'll go from another side. As I was researching Matthias, and I found out that Leonardo da Vinci was in awe of him and painted